That would help. Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Test, test.
Okay. It worked earlier, so I tested it a while ago.
You can do this, or you don't really have to call me after that.
Okay.
Came up from AJ this morning. This is the annual gift for the staff. He wanted these to go in all the mailboxes today. That's done. They're in there.
Okay, do you want me to read it?
No. It's for the pastor and staff. It's their annual bonus. So make an announcement that there's an important item in everyone's mailbox.
Test. Okay.
Be sure to pick it up today.
Okay.
They've got a short window to respond,
Okay. All right, we'll do that.
or I can come up, but I don't.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Yep. Can everyone hear me? Hey, Rob, can you hear me back there? Okay. Could I get everyone's attention, please? We're going to start a little early today because we've got quite a lot to do, and there's men's and women's Bible study after this. So some of them want to go home and see the Packers game at 1 o'clock. So I know I do. So the other thing I'm going to do before I get started, I apologize. So if any of you are familiar with Mark Twain, I have a frog in my throat today that Tom Sawyer would be proud of. So I apologize if I clear my throat a little bit. And real quick before we get started, Bill had asked me to announce something. Each of you has a note in your inbox that's rather important. So if you guys could make sure you check your inbox on your way out. Okay? Has to do with Christmas gifts for staff. Okay. We've been doing a Bible study for the last, is that too loud? Are we okay? Okay, good. We've been doing a Bible study for the last couple of weeks that's around freedom in Christ, or being free in Christ and free to serve. And I was thinking about what prayer I was going to open with today, and I think that it really kind of goes back to this. We're talking about our bondage and sin and how Christ frees us from that, and then that makes us able to go out and share his love of Christ with the rest of the world, and that really is what Messiah is about. You can see it in the things we are doing. You can see it in the joy that's in this congregation. You can see it in the blessings, I think, from God through the Holy Spirit to this congregation. I asked Pastor a couple of weeks ago how many members we actually had in the church. It's about 130. If you look at our normal attendance, we're running between 100 and 120 or so every Sunday. We had 106 today. And obviously we always have a few visitors, but I have never been in a church where the number of people in attendance typically ran 75 to 90% of the number of members that we had. So that is truly a blessing from God. And that's what 2025 is going to be all about, is looking at all of the resources and riches, the hard work you do, your time, talent, and money, and other riches that, as new members come. And how do we get that focused in 2025 and keep going? It's a conversation we'll keep having for years. But how do we keep that focused and know what God is wanting us to do and do it? So if I could open with prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for your loving kindness that brought Jesus Christ into our world. In him we have been set free from our bondage to sin and selfishness. Help us now by the power of the Holy Spirit to learn how our freedom might glorify you and serve our neighbor. We ask this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. So There are packets that I put at the end of the table. You may have to share, depends on how many people you have at your table. The minutes from the last congregation meeting are there. So if you could take a look at those for a few minutes and see if you have any corrections or omissions you'd like to share, let us know about. Yes. Yes, it's on its way. I think PM got that started, so it's on its way up. I have a motion that we move and accept the minutes. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. When? Can you come up? Yeah, I think Jane is counting, so.
Well, okay, excuse me. I think I have the frog of Calaveras County, if you're familiar with Mark Twain, in my throat, so that's right, that's right. Jane is counting, and that in itself is a blessing. She has been a wonderful, wonderful financial secretary, and we are thankful for her diligence. You'll take a look at the monthly giving report that's been reduced to one page, and it gives a summary just to familiarize yourself based on our giving budget of, that's, if you will, the plate budget of $225,000 this year. We divided it up. Of course, expenses are not equally distributed over the month, but it kind of gives you an interpretation of the monthly needs, which is $18,750. And you see how our giving both this year and the last year has developed, and it's just remarkable. And I'll have more to say about this in a bit, but we're 220,000 in plate giving of the 225,000, and that is through October. We are doing quite well in that regard relative to our budgeted income that we had planned for this year. And you see that additional giving shows you the various, what we call specified use contributions, totaling about 20K, and our total contributions this year so far have been 240,801. And those are in the basic contributions for general fund and for special use funds. Any questions? Okay, I'll turn my hat around, and you want me to do the treasurer's thing? Okay. All right, treasurer's report. If you'll take a look at that, I'll give you, these are numbers, but they're really good numbers. Our cash and savings at the end of October are strong, a total of $197,000 cash. It's in the bank with sufficient funds and amounts for our operational checking account available at Truist Bank. That's where our primary operating checking account is housed. We currently, just for information, we currently hold 2 CDs with Truist. 76K, it was originally a 75K, was invested 5 months ago. It matured on the 3rd of November. I renewed that, with an APY of 3.95% annual percentage yield, and it will transpire next or mature next on 3 April. Also a $50,000 CD that matures 15 February. It's a 7-month CD that I was able to lock in at 4.5 annual percentage yield. We also have a money market account with Truist that holds $25,000. In the operational checking accounts, 2 accounts, Truist at the time of the end of October had $19K in it. Lutheran Church Extension Fund checking account had $29,000 in it. You can take a look with the financial status. The column on the left, assets as of the end of October, we had 19,000 in the checking, total accumulation of 178,000 for $197,000 basic cash amounts. Income statement, if you take a look at actual, we have had a total income for expenditures of $264,000, and we had an expense of $262,000. It's amazing. In our contributions, we've been able to do the things that we wanted and needed to do through October, almost, in essence, to the penny at the $1,700. So that's really a good distribution of numbers. Looking at the budget, our income for the budget was $254, and our expense was a total of $417,000. All right. If you compare what we have actually taken in against the budget, we are already, after 10 months, over the amount of money that we had anticipated and budgeted for this year. And that's great. The expense, you always like to see this. We expended less than we anticipated, but we did everything that we felt was necessary, and so we're 63% of our expense that was projected for the budget through the year 2024. Okay, so we see that our spend rate's fairly close to our income rate. While we can't accurately determine the specific amount of cash assets that we'll hold at the end of the year, we certainly are going to have a surplus, which will be the cash assets that will contribute to next year, and it will be seen in our budget projections. We're pleased to note that this year we have maintained the budgeted amount of stewardship giving as we had planned. That was a real important commitment to us, was to make sure that this great blessing will be a blessing to others. And we have had no dearth in opportunities with hurricanes and the like this year, and so we were very thankful to be able to contribute. We have our final 5K going to Senate in November. Actually, I just saw that it was cleared in the checking account a couple days ago, so that's been paid out, as well as one more block of $4,000 for his yet to be determined recipient organization. Our last block gift was $7,000 to Samaritan's Purse for disaster relief in Western North Carolina, and $3,000 to Emmanuel Lutheran LCMS Church for hurricane relief, Helene relief, and $6,000 to Grace Lutheran LCMS Church devastated by Hurricane Helene and Milton in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's my treasurer's report. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. If you're wondering why there's a difference in the giving to those two churches, the first church he mentioned is in Asheville, and it's a church. The second church is in Florida, and it's a church and a school, so they needed quite a bit of help. So, thank you very much, Pastor. You're up. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm in teaching confirmation, so I don't have much time before the students go wild. I'm not going to go through the report. You have it before you. If you have any questions about it, let me know. I basically just want to say it's exciting to see the kingdom winning. It really is. It's exciting to see the kingdom winning and God using us to do the winning through. A couple things that come to mind. Besides this morning, those who were online, unfortunately, they do the worst updates on the worst days possible. And I swear I don't swear, but they do this on Sundays, and I'm like, are they against the church? Our service broadcast got interrupted because they pushed out a firmware update, and all the cameras went wonky, and it's like, can you wait until like midnight, do this? Anyway, for the times that it does work, God's kingdom is working in marvelous ways. A couple stories. One is one that I heard. It's very personal to the person, but he told me it the other day. His brother did not know very much of the Lord, and he was watching online, and his brother came down, was basically dying from cancer, and heard the service of Messiah from the other room. And weeks and weeks go by, and ultimately he started, I guess, asking questions about what the pastor was saying from this Messiah Lutheran Church, and what does this all mean? And before long, he wanted to actually be put in front of the TV and hear Messiah Lutheran Church. And in the end, I guess I did a sermon on the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin and the lost son. He took to that, and he's like, I'm the lost son. And before he died, he opened up to the chaplain of hospice. It was a seed that we planted. He wouldn't have heard that if it wasn't for online. Another way is we see people coming to church online. They do not come here. They plan to come here eventually, but they don't. They receive a communion kit, and they participate online, and they're virtual members until they can actually come here. Long story short, your ability to give, your ability to serve hands and feet, endearing the community, your ability to spread those little prayers and those little messages to your neighbors, to have them come and sit with you on Sundays, that's the kingdom winning. We're a part of that, and we ought to be proud of that, and we ought to say, hey, you know what? I want to do more of it. And so we're going to do more. And I'm excited for 2025. I'm excited for what our leadership has already kind of pushed along the way, and I don't know, it's just a really exciting thing. So thank you. Thank you for your giving. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do. Messiah would not be here without you. So the kingdom's winning, and we're a part of it. So thank you.
Thanks, Pastor. Bill, do you have anything from the elders that you'd like to report?
I don't have any news to report today.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for everything you're doing. We appreciate that. Rob, do you have anything to report today?
Morning. On behalf of the trustees, first of all, I want to thank Pete for filling in for me last month. But it is Thanksgiving time, so what I want to do is spend a little time thanking everybody who was involved in our Messiah mowers. And I'm just going to read off some names. Harley Hammond, Max Zolan, Scott Williamson, Michael Menke, Keith McKenzie, David Weichel, Richard Hollenbeek, Patrick Hubbard, and Tim Blees. And also Dave Ernst, who kept our gas filled up and all the mowers working and all the equipment. And another thank you to Todd Limbach for helping put these windows that you see in all these doors, and those turned out nice. Well, no, I helped you. Todd's my mentor. Todd is my mentor. And so we have a lot of things to look forward to. Once we get through the holidays, we're going to start up some projects here you're going to hear more about, but stay tuned. There's an effort out there for help, and hope that we get some answers to that request. So if you have some skills you'd like us to be aware of, we would really appreciate anybody that has some skills that can help us do DIY kind of activities, because we're going to have plenty of that to do. So, and then thank you to my wife who supports all these fun things that we have going on here in my absence from home every now and then. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks,
Happy
Rob.
Thanksgiving.
As Rob said, we're starting to ask for volunteers, people that could help in many ways, including the refurbishment of the hall that we're in. We're starting to, I think, kind of coalesce around some things that we know we need to do, painting and just some renovation, maybe to a small degree. I don't think it's going to look a whole lot different when we're all done the way it looks, but it's going to be freshened up and have some things done to it, so to expand our purpose as we move forward from that. So I also wanted to share with you real quickly, because I know some people have asked me, we have had some water issues over here on the floor in this classroom. The trustees have done a great job. They reached out to a local landscaping company who had one of their engineers come over and look at it, and did some surveying, said, hey, it's beyond our capability. Recommend that we get in touch with an engineer, so we're in the process of doing that. And we probably will see some type, well, I know we will see, you're going to see some excavation, some new drainage, some new pipe, maybe a little pond back here. That way, I get confused. Yeah, if I didn't have Windy, I would not find my way around Wilmington. The river running north and south just messes me up. So anyway, those things are going to start to happen. And it's probably not going to be until after the holidays, because we're entering the holidays. But we may get the engineer here before that, I don't know. But those things are going to start to happen. And we will probably be asking for some help to do some of that work, because there is some of that we can do ourselves. But anyway, more to come on that as we move forward. So again, thank you, trustees, for all you've done. Carol, you're up.
Well, I didn't know that they were going to steal my thunder by printing my report and handing it out to everyone. So you're going to have to bear with me, because I want to brag on all of you. And my whole report is based around the Friendsgiving event that we had. And I just want to thank everyone that made it such a success. It was unbelievable. There were so many helping hands that went in it. I have to give a really, really big thank you, I'm glad he's not here now, to Pastor Timothy. I'm sorry, I have to chuckle, but he was responsible for the Thanksgiving coloring book placemats and the crayons and the little containers they were in. And if you missed it, you just don't know what you missed. We had 2 inflatable turkeys that each had, I think each had 6 little blow-up donuts about that big, and it was a ring toss game. See if you can get the donut over the turkey's neck. Well, it's the older kids had a whole lot of fun playing with that. But who was I talking to? Was it Wynn? Anyway, someone made the comment that he was checking the credit card statements, and he made the comment that, he said, I'm on Pastor's statement, and he said, boy, there's Amazon, 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 and then something that's ETSY, ETSY. I don't know what this, well, it's Etsy. You go on Etsy and you buy things, and you go on Amazon and you buy even more things. But anyway, I think the inner child came out in Timothy. I really do. But it was so much fun. We all had a lot of fun. I want to thank those people that showed up during the week. With Wednesday midweek Bible study, anything we have after, during the week is stymied until they leave out of here and we can start setting up the room for however we're going to use it. So I had quite a few people just kind of show up. I let it be known I'm going to be here from these hours. If you can show up, fine. So I had lots and lots of helping hands. The sign-up sheet helped, except I wasn't happy about having a paper sign-up sheet and an electronic sign-up sheet because my brain doesn't function that way. I'm old. I want paper and pencil. But it all worked out. On the sign-up sheet, there were 50-plus sign-up. So when we set the tables, we set for 60, thinking, okay, there's always overflow. Well, I did a real random head count, and we had at least 70, 75 people here. So we were kind of a little squished, but everybody, they put on the feed bag, and they really didn't care if they didn't have a seat. The food was awesome. I want to thank Rob, and I want to thank Scott for doing the turkey and the pork loin. They smoked it. I never had smoked pork loin before. Boy, is that good. He can come cook at my house anytime. So we had a lot of food, but we had a lot of food left over. And Pat, she's counting money. Pat Donovan and I, we started, I guess, a year or so ago. If people didn't want to take their leftovers home, we packaged them up in the little Chinese takeout containers and then boxed them, and we loaded them into the back of my van, and we knocked on the firefighter's door. And we've done it several times. And they're such sweet young men over there. They make me feel like their grandma, But they see us coming with these boxes, and they just start to glow. So, and we chat with them, and, they say, well, yeah, we take turns cooking for each other. It's kind of that, they're not chefs or anything. But, so they greatly appreciate us, and they thanked us. And I couldn't tell them enough how much nicer it is for us knowing we have the safety of a fire station on the corner. So anyway, anytime you see them, just smile and wave at them because they like our food. Guess maybe we ought to eat more often. Okay, and I want to thank Bill Chase and Pam Hammond for doing the photo booth. Unfortunately, I didn't get over there, but I didn't want to break Bill's camera. So hey, thanks for posting the pictures, Bill. They turned out really nice. Anyway, it was a nice takeaway, a memento for all the families to take home. And I'm sure I've kind of overlooked thanking somebody because we had so many helping hands. But as my grand finale, I am glad to say that as of right now, when I go home, I sit back, I put my feet up, I get the remote control in my hand, and I know I don't have to plan another event until Chili Cook-Off #2 in January. So thank you all for your support. My job gets me down sometimes because it gets kind of busy, but then you always just jack me right back up, and I have so much fun I wouldn't want to do anything else. So y'all keep up the good work, and that makes me look good. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Carol. Pam, do you have anything for guest services?
All right, I'm following Rob's theme of a lot of thank yous in my report today. So of course, first I'm going to start with being grateful for our guest services team and the way they share hospitality with our guests and members each week. A huge word of thanks to our members, that's you guys, who take a few minutes before or after the service. Oh, thank you. And you're taking time to get to know our guests, and that really makes them feel welcome and seen and want to come back. And many of our first-time visitors are coming back to worship with us and grow in our faith, and that's our mission. I do want to say as our attendance increases, we do want to keep our guests in mind. They often arrive like right before the service, and so we're trying to find a place for them to sit where they don't feel like they're, walking up to the front. So if you could maybe think about scooting a little bit closer in the pews and leaving some room on the outside, that's a nice way that we can find a spot for them. And they sometimes like to sit toward the back also. I know. I know, usually the best seats are at the front of the house, but I noticed that those aren't usually taken. No, sometimes. Thank you to those of you who added your names and hometowns to the hometown map list. When you have a minute, please stop by and look at the electronic interactive map that Pastor added. It's on a tablet on the bookshelf that's near the information center. So it's a fun way to connect to other members and help our guests feel at home. In fact, we now, you may have seen, have 3 tablets that are available at the information center, so we can help you sign up for flower donations, and that includes poinsettias, the Candles of Hope for our Advent service. You can be added to our Messiah email list, or let us know if you're interested in joining, or in the, what do you call it? I can't think, becoming a member. The orientation, that's the word I was trying to think of. Okay. And this information then will be seen by Wendy Smith, our Messiah's office manager. So we're very blessed to have a pastor who shares his love of technology. As Pastor has in his report, we are having a group of people who've stepped up and want to help sponsor our college students. And Carol Schweikert is going to lead this ministry as they find ways to make sure our students feel cared for while they're away from home. And I know Carol thanked me and Bill for the photo booth, but I also want to make sure and include Wendy and Mark Elliott and Harley, because they helped set up that beautiful fall Friendsgiving photo display. And thank you, Bill, for taking the great pictures, and Burma for assisting. One other thing, and the last thing, is our ushers have been counting the cars and the remaining spaces, and there aren't many of those, in the parking lot each Sunday. And so as the holidays approach, we're going to ask a few individuals to plan to park on the lawn, and we'll try to let you know ahead of time. And then we'll be placing signs and cones at the back left corner. Am I pointing the right way, Mark? of the parking lot, over by the cell tower, so that there will be an entrance and an exit to lawn parking, so nobody will get stuck on the grass. Okay. All right. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Pam. Okay, old business. I have on here Hurricanes Helene and Milton relief response, and Wynn has already talked about that. We do have probably one more church that we're going to give some money to. We're working as a council via email to talk about that, and I hope to get that finished up this week. And then, as Wynn said, we have about $4,000 left out of $40,000 that we had set aside. And so we're working with Pastor and the council to come up with where that final amount of money would go before the end of the year. That's probably going to be wrapped up virtually. We do have one more council meeting that we could have in December, but it's going to be in the middle of the holidays, and so I'll make a decision later on whether we're going to do that or just do a virtual meeting, because people are going to be traveling and gone. So we'll get that wrapped up, though. Any other old business? All right. So the new business, the thing that's on the list today, is the review and approval of the budget for 2025. And I don't want to steal any of Wynn's thunder, but I want to say a couple of things up front, and then I've got some other things I'd like to add when the budget review and hopefully approval is done. There is an enormous amount of work that goes into this, and as this congregation grows and the resources grow, it requires more work and it requires more structure. Wynn has been a huge champion of that and has done an enormous amount of work behind the scenes. So I really want to thank him for everything that he's done. All right. I want to thank Wendy Smith and Jane Cochran, too, who served on the Finance Committee this year and put in an enormous amount of effort to try to pull this all together. The effort starts late June, sometime in July, continues through until we have the review and approval by the council in October, and then we bring it to you in November. So the other thing that I will say real quickly, and then I said I'll talk more about this later, is that it's important to us as a council to ensure that the budget is, the monies that we're spending and the monies we're setting aside for long-term capital gains, the money that you are giving us, are focused on the mission and vision of this church and what we do and how we serve the Lord and bring Christ to our community and the world. And we want the budget to reflect that and the way it looks. You ought to be able to look at it and say, yeah, look, that we're doing what we said we were doing. pull that together. There are more changes in the way it gets laid out that are coming, and I'll talk with you a little bit more about that after the presentation. So Win, I'll turn it over to you.
Mark. And the, yeah, this is, Mark. I appreciate those kind introductory remarks. In the Navy, all I got was a kick in the butt and said, "Go out and do more. Go out and do more." So it's appreciated. I'm going to be somewhat surgical here and going through the budget and talking about it. And you've had 3 weeks or so to review it online. I actually had a couple people ask me questions about it, which I said, oh, maybe somebody did do that after all. Silence is not necessarily golden, however. So if you do have any questions, either desiring to bring them up during this presentation or after, just simply asking for clarification. One thing Mark and I are totally committed to is absolute clarity as best we can provide it to you in terms of how we manage, oversee, be a shepherd to the resources that you have entrusted to us. I got to thinking after the election that you guys truly need to know you have a representative government here, okay, with the council. We're almost fearful of doing anything that any of us thinks might be contravening the wishes of the congregation, and I mean that. So everything we do with prayer and supplication. All right, let me talk about the budget. You have 4 pages just to describe. Page 1, much of it is the income. Page is the remainder of 1 through 3, expenses, and page 4, analysis, okay, some analytical reviews of numbers and the like. Let me give you a top line interpretation. The top line is the bottom line, okay? The top line is that for 2025, we are projecting an income of $288,700 with $250 from plate contributions to the general fund, all right? Expense, we are looking at a total of $460,000 on the expense side of the budget. With an estimated cash, how do we do that? It's sleight of hand, okay? With an estimated cash assets at the end of the year 2024. That is, how much are we going to have left over in cash that we had not expended, but we have it? And the expected 2025 income will have, we project, an end of year 2025 surplus of some $40,000 after fully expending the budgeted amount. Now, before, we just tried to balance those two out. All I want to tell you is, without understanding fully what's going to be in the till by the end of December, we are in a comfortable position about meeting this $460,000 expenditure budget. But I will tell you that, at least since I've been here, we've never expended all the money that we have assigned in the expense budget. So we'll probably be in pretty good shape. Attention is called to the pie chart at the very last, and I call on you to look at that, because it is telling in terms of, at least in the major areas, how we are allocating the funds. We have 42% of the budgeted expense going for personnel, leadership development, and all those kinds of things. We have 22% going for operating and maintaining our facilities. We have 16% for stewardship giving. We have 9% for capital improvements that we're attempting to project for the year, and so on and so on. But that gives you an interpretation of how we are looking at the expense budget for next year. Let me make a couple of comments about the income budget. The general fund, it's in three parts in essence. The general fund, the specific income. This year, I said we didn't worry about, okay, let's just figure out what we need for expense budget and then say this is what we're going to have for income. With an analyst over here that knows least squares approximations and straight line interpolation and all those fancy words. He did an analysis on our giving, and we came up with independently an income that we felt was very good for, and somewhat conservative, but a very good estimation of our income expected for 2025. So that's what we went with. That's the reason why we're projecting certainly at least a modest increase in the overall cash at the end of next year. The budget increase of $35K over 2024. We projected a budget of whatever it was. I've got it somewhere. Anyway, we projected a budget that was $35,000 more for 2025 than we had budgeted for 2024. We believe this could be a conservative increase. That's the budget increase for income. Note inclusion of community outreach. There's of $8K. This is where we had decided to break numbers out, saying there's certain specified use efforts that we're going to identify, like the Be Rich campaign and the cash contributions that people are making to that, the Give a Pan campaign and other such things. We're grouping that as a sub-line item, if you will, to the specified use so that we can keep track of that better on the expense side. Again, note most significant item in the incidental income is the cell tower lease, which we continue to be blessed with. Let me go to the expense budget. Most notable, and I call your careful attention to this, we broke out our personal compensation details this year for several reasons. Note that before we invited people to talk with us separately, it's important that you see you are the employer. It's important that you recognize that you are in the employer, so therefore you need to know the salaries and the compensation packages given to your employees, okay? And so we wanted to show that. It's important for several reasons. I'll not go through them, but you can talk with me later if you wish. But congregation is specifically approving pastor's total compensation package. And I want you to look at that if you haven't already. And that includes base salary, it includes housing, it includes auto allowance and benefits, auto allowance and benefits, etc. Pastor's salary is being increased this year in part as a means to bring him closer to recommended guidance by the Synod and by Southeastern District. We had a lot of good thought about that, and I really appreciate Mark's efforts in that regard. So as you approve the budget, you also are specifically approving the salaries that are being identified and the compensation packages. Noted in stewardship giving, we increased it 8K. Remember, on the income side, we had 8K for local contributions and the like. We wanted to break that out and identify that. All of these things are done with great appreciation for Wendy and Jane as that going to request, or because you don't identify a specified use, or to specified use. And we want to be able to track that clearly, and the improvements in our budget format is helping us toward that end. We have a few more ways to go, which we'll do next year. But anyway, look at the new line items for capital improvements. We wanted to separate that out. Last year and last couple of years, as you remember, I just kind of glumped it all in to the maintenance budget. No, we need to break out those numbers. And for example, we've got about 35K in there for next year, which I really think, I've been talking about it for 2 years now, but really think that we're going to see an expenditure of that money this year, thanks to really the great effort of Rob and his crew being reasonable and smart and yet aggressive in doing things that are really going to improve this facility. Maintenance. We're expecting possible HVAC replacement of one of the big units for the sanctuary hall. Both of them are old. One of them's older than the other, and we've got to be ready to take action with resources if indeed the demise is realized on that machine. So we don't want you basking in your heated glory in the summertime with one of those systems going down. So we have money there, and of course we also have money set aside for repair and maintenance on those units as well. We wanted to break that out because of the potential need for an expense. Other expenses, budgeted a nominal amount for possible expense for needed audit. See, under other expenses, we are way behind. We are way delinquent in having some form of a recognizable authoritative audit. We have met, Mark and I, with the gentleman, and we have learned a lot about the process. We are trying to pick only that which we think is necessary to be an independent review and assurance entity for you to know that we are taking care of your monies. Other miscellaneous expense, 18K or so, is the odd number is to round things out, but 18K for a contingency fund, if you will. All right, summary comments. Budget basis of our carryover cash assets into the new year. The budget basis, okay? We projected 480K for our expense budget, all right? And we came up and said that 289K was going to be our income budget, all right? The carryover that we're using is 213K, but that's only because that's what we had at the end of September, all right? It's as good a number as any because we have an ebb and flow of monies that we just needed to go with some number that was reasonable to us. So we don't know exactly what that carryover is going to be. Okay, if it's 213K, if it's 190K, don't really know. So I just wanted to point that out. And of course, it totally depends also on the unexpected expenses that we might have and the wonderful contributions that we so appreciate for people over the last 2 months. If this does hold through 2024, we'll have more than enough funds to meet this expense budget that we have. That's all I have. And I would ask if you have any questions or comments.
May I say a couple things?
Yes,
Go ahead, Bob. No.
yes, sir. Thank you for that. That was an artifact that we had, and we thought we would keep it there because we're not really sure, all right? But we wanted to have some money for maintenance of the parking lot. We also have a challenge with regard to the future of just where our parking lot will extend to if necessary. As you heard from Pam, we're concerned about parking, and that's a good concern to have. But we've just put in for a placeholder more than anything else. We do not have anything specific in terms of a targeted project to go against it. It's called an impenetrable surface, okay, and the water runoff. And quite honestly, we've had much discussion about that, and part of it also is associated with the more parking lot we have, the more impenetrable surface we have, we actually pay more money to the town for water runoff, retention requirements, and all that sort of stuff. So it's, I mean, don't get me started. Yeah, but I appreciate what you're saying. It was there mostly for any repair or anything that we had to concern ourselves about that. Now, let me also say that that we're having to recognize that we will need funds, which I've put in here, for an engineer nominally, hopefully adequately, to recognize just how we're going to deal with this real problem of water intrusion from water runoff from the downspouts and gutters and things like that. Who knows whether we might have to do some of that because, as you know, I'm sure that some of those drainage areas go underneath the parking lot. So there are a lot of things we don't know. What we have attempted to do, and thanks to Rob and his guys, to just try to have money available in the maintenance budget to be able to address these things as best we can.
Your question is great because it kind of emphasizes one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is that we at Messiah do not have a balance sheet. We haven't had one that I know of for years. We have an income statement, basically, which tracks with the budget, but we just here recognize income and expenses. And we set money aside for long-term capital improvements like parking lots and replacement of HVAC equipment, but we don't have a tool in our financial process to capture those long-term improvement stuff, right? So every year we give you a budget, it looks like we're spending way more money than we're taking in because we're trying to account for all that money we've got that's earmarked for things that we will eventually do, but we don't have any way of putting that into capturing as an asset. So one of the things that we're hoping this financial does for us, and we've talked with them and they said they can help software that we have. And if we can accomplish that, what I think you'll see next year is that there may be monies allocated for that in the budget, but it's going to go to that long-term capital assets, excuse me, yeah, that assets category for that particular long-term capital gain. And that'll help us do a much better job of communicating to you and letting us know what we've got. So the other thing I wanted to say quickly about pastor's salary. If you look at the line item that says pastor's salary, it looks like we give him a pay cut. We did not. We gave them a pay raise. But because we've broken out salary, living, housing, and the auto, if you add those three together, you'll see the raise. If you just look at the salary number, you would see that it makes it look like it's going down. It actually has gone up, but we've broken the three out.
Based on what we designed when we built the new church, when engineering came in here and the contractor that put all that drainage in, well, several of us on the committee at that time said it didn't look good enough. The elevation was so flat.
Yeah.
That I know darn well that elevation, that's one of the biggest problems. We can't move the water enough, to get out of here because we're so flat. And we got that big ditch back there where a lot of that water goes into. Especially if we're in front by the church here, where all the street drainage goes into there.
Yeah, we really appreciate those comments because we live for now and the future. So now we got to figure out what to do. And we recognize the seepage because the water just comes draining in here. Yep.
And also this, several years now, I guess, that was all, about 3 or 4 years ago, we dug up all outside there, contractor, and they sealed it, out there, so I don't know what else they're gonna do.
It is correct. That outer wall, which is a brick facade on the outside of a metal siding, is sealed. But what we believe is happening is that the groundwater is rising. So it's coming up through the floor about 12 to 18 inches in from the pad. So it's possible. Yep.
Any other questions? I'll let you do the deed.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the budget as presented for 2025?
I saw one that-
Have a second? Is there any more discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, great. The 2025 budget is approved as written. Thank you.
Thank you for the good job you did.
Oh, yep. All right, I've got some notes here, and I won't keep you too long, but just a few things that I wanted to say. If you go to our website and read what we're about, it says Messiah has been positioned in Southeast North Carolina to keep reaching a changing world. We exist to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. And of course, we're all familiar with Micah 6:8, which we say at the end of every service, which is, He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. And that's what we do here. And we could make a list of all of the things that we do to fulfill that purpose. And if you start to look at it, so much of it is about reaching the rest of our community and the world. The bake sales we have, the garage sales we have, the Be Rich campaign, all of the things that we do here are focused on nurturing this community, nurturing this church community, and nurturing the community in the world around us. What we don't have, how to say this best, as we grow, which is happening, and we get more resources, time, talents, and money, keeping that going and keeping it focused is going to be a challenge. And what can happen, and I've seen this happen in business with the first company I worked for when I got out of the Navy, everybody started doing their own thing, which was cool. Company loved that. It was entrepreneurship. It was bringing in a lot of money. And 10 years later, we had no handle on any of it, and it got sold out to an investment firm on Wall Street, and things kind of went downhill after that for those of us as employees. That's not going to happen, obviously. But we need to stay focused, and we need to have some guidance and some guide rails that we can always look at and say, these are the best things we can do with our resources to fulfill the mission that God is giving us. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to pray a lot about it, because we need to. It's not what we decide we're going to do, it's what our answer to God's call to us and what we want to do, right? We also need to do some Bible studies around that probably. And I haven't talked to Bill about this yet, but maybe that's something we can look at in 2025. Is how do we align on that? You are going to see 4 things at least start in 2025. Pastor mentioned one of them in his report, which is a stewardship, and I'm going to call it a committee because we as LCMF Lutherans know what that means. It's a stewardship committee. It's in our Constitution as a stewardship committee. Stewardship chairman sits on the council, so there'll be a new member joining council. But I like to think of it more as a team. And Pastor is recruiting some people to be involved in that and lead it. But it's more than just making sure that we have a sermon every year to encourage people to tithe and picking 2 or 3 charities that we're going to support every year. It's about getting to know our community and getting to know the world in which we live and understanding what they need. The president gave us some great advice, which he has seen work in another church, which is get to know your community. Go talk to your chief of police. Go talk to the social services people in your community. Go talk to your hospital. Go talk to the people in your community that know what your community needs and where the light of God needs to shine. And then this team will get to know those people. I think it would be awesome if members of this team ran into the leadership, knew each other well enough at the grocery store to say, hey, how you doing, right? That's what we need so we can fully understand what God's asking us to do. And that team will expand and collapse as needed. Call us in as members to help with whatever that looks like. They're going to have a budget, which we already have a budget, but it'll probably be aligned a little bit. And we're going to be looking for input. Mostly we're going to be looking for a lot of prayer and a lot of Bible study so that we know what it is that God wants us to do and where we're headed. I'm really looking forward to getting that team in place. Second thing we're going to do is some strategizing in 2025. Jim Ergin's going to lead this effort. I've talked to a few of you who are here today about maybe joining that. If you're interested in that, let me know. We're pretty set, I think, on a mission and a vision, but I don't know that we've articulated it really well. We kind of need to do that. And then talking with Pastor, I guess this congregation did this several years ago, we'll probably do what's known as a SWOT, which is starting to look at your internal strengths, your internal weaknesses, your external opportunities, and your external threats. And let me get threat. When people hear threat, they kind of, what's that mean? Well, let me give you an example. So we used to give blessing bags, hand them out at hospice, right, Carol? And then hospice leadership changed, and they wouldn't let us do anymore, right? That is what you could categorize as a threat. They had very good reasons for that, I'm sure. I'm not saying that they didn't. But it changed the way we could respond in Christ through those blessing bags. So Carol and everybody else said, well, these things are awesome. Let's figure out where else we can give them, right? So now we give them someplace else. So understanding what those things are is important. And as we work through that, we'll share that with you. We'll let you know where we're at in the phases of that as we go through it. We love your input. But it would be awesome for us to be able to, if somebody asks us what Messiah is all about, to have what I know as an elevator speech that's, a very short sentence that says, this is what we do. This is what we're about here at Messiah, right? Christian education needs to be a focus in 2025. We have Sarah and Debbie have stepped up to help with that, which is awesome. Sarah's been at it a long time, but we need more. We need more volunteers. We have some money in the budget for that next year. If we need to move some more money to it, that would be great. But it's kind of a chicken or egg theory. We don't have a whole lot of kids and youth, and that's what we typically talk about when we talk about Christian education. So do we need a lot of people? Well, we at least need more than we have because we're only right now able to do it at best 2 Sundays a month, but typically it's 1 Sunday a month. That's what we've been running. Or do you need to have the team in place so that people will come? Well, we'd like to start getting the team in place. And I can tell you an experience that Wendy and I had where we hired a youth leader at the church we went to, and youth programs were established, but they weren't very well attended. And Tammy was just amazing. And the number of people that started showing up and the love of Christ that was shared through that organization became really real and really, really great. So keep that in mind. If you have a heart for being a part of that, either behind the scenes or as a teacher or something, please let me know or let Pastor know. And the final thing I want to talk about is financial controls, which Wynn has talked about. And I'm going to start this by saying we have no fear or concern about our financial controls. We trust the people that are doing it. They're doing a great job. but we don't really have procedures for it. It's very much tacit knowledge. It's the experience that they bring, the experience from past work here, and there are a few things that we need to do to get some structure in place as we grow. It's extremely important that we're transparent with you and that we're transparent with any auditor that might come in about what the money's coming in and where it's going. So we're going to have this review. Kind of shocked that we haven't got a proposal yet, but we need to knock on that guy's door. The company that we're talking to is Ernie and Associates, I think, which has been in Wilmington. I think they may be the oldest accounting firm in Wilmington. They came highly recommended. They do a lot of work for nonprofits, including several churches. So they're going to give in and kind of give us a look, and then they're going to help us understand what it is that we need in terms of controls. Plus, we have some talent in our own organization, like Wendy, who knows a lot about that as well. So we're going to start putting that structure in place. I don't know if we'll get it completely done in 2025, but that structure is coming in 2025. The other thing will allow us to do is to have, when we have turnover in our positions like administrative assistant or treasurer, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but when it does happen, we'll have consistency in the way we manage our finances and control it. So those are 4 things that we're going to work on in 2025. Council's a volunteer organization, so I hope we get it all done, but we're going to try. But we're going to keep moving at it. And if you have any thoughts or recommendations, or if you just want to know status, please feel free to ask me. So, does anybody have any questions? Bob?
You just talked about having a program where more people will come. And earlier we heard when you sit closer to each other so we can fit more people in. Has anybody ever thought about 2 things?
And the answer to that is yes. So there are a lot of thoughts going on about how we expand, how we handle expansion, where the mission fields are in this area. And so those conversations are ongoing. We have not sat down as a council and said, this is something we need to go focus on. Are we going to do 2 services or not? Right now, our capacity for that building is 190 people per the fire code. Obviously, you can't get 190 people into the sanctuary. That includes classrooms and offices and that kind of thing. We can seat comfortably about 130. That would include choir seats. We're running at about 105. We are keeping track every Sunday of the number of cars that are in a parking lot. Believe it or not, the ratio of number of people to the number of cars is about 1.3 to 1.5. All right? So a lot of us are driving 2 cars to church, or we have a lot of single members. And sometimes we have to drive. I can tell Wendy and I sometimes drive 2 cars to church because I've got to be here early or she's got to be here early, and the other one has something else he need to get done. So all of the, I guess to wrap it up, those things are in consideration. We're looking at it. And hopefully we'll hear more about those kind of things in 2025 too. Any other questions? Yes. We thank you for that. And I think the most important thing for me anyway is to continue to remember that last part of what we say every Sunday is to walk humbly with God, because we could screw it up much faster than we can move it forward. I can guarantee you that. I've seen it happen. So, all right. Thank you. Any other new business?
Final comment again on your way out. Please check your mailboxes. There's an important notice in there for everyone in the room. Thank you.
Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Carol? From whom all blessings flow, praise here all creatures here below.